Michelle Glass here, and our topic for this presentation is the hypothalamus. So we are in our fourth episode of our Chapter 18, Lecture 18 series. And when I like to introduce the hypothalamus to my students, I like to talk about it as the big boss, like the corporate boss, the one that the day-to-day workers never see. Because what we'll see is that the hypothalamus is in large part regulating the entire endocrine system. And so the hypothalamus is producing what are described as regulatory hormones. It's kind of laying down the rules of what needs to happen. Now, these regulatory hormones will be described as either releasing hormones or inhibiting hormones. And for the most part, these hormones are talking to the anterior lobe of the pituitary gland, which I like to think of as the middle manager, the floor manager. That's the one that the workers actually, see and talk to and all of that. The hypothalamus, remember, is located in your diencephalon. So here's my lovely diagram of my brain stem, and then you have the diencephalon on top there. You have, of course, your pituitary gland hanging off of the hypothalamus. And the hypothalamus, remember, is the bottom portion of the diencephalon. So all of this is, remember, located in the brain. The hypothalamus has different components here that we'll be talking about. So one section of the hypothalamus does control the adrenal medullae, which we've already mentioned as part of our autonomic nervous system. And then we have this chunk of the hypothalamus that's responsible for those regulatory hormones. And remember, these regulatory hormones are talking to what is called the anterior lobe of the pituitary gland, or what we can call here the Adeno Hypothesis. So here we have our Adeno Hypothesis. Okay, so let us just kind of talk through each of these. Notice that each of your hormones also has an abbreviation, and so you do need to recognize them by both the full name and the abbreviated name. And we'll talk about what each of these hormones does as we go into our next presentation. So coming from the hypothalamus, we have corticotropin releasing hormone, thyrotropin releasing hormone, growth hormone releasing hormone, and growth hormone inhibiting hormone, prolactin releasing factor, and prolactin inhibiting hormone, and then gonadotropin releasing hormone. So notice these are our regulatory hormones, and that's easy to see because they have either releasing or inhibiting as part of the name. Again, not only do you need to know these by their name, but also their abbreviation. So make sure you're paying attention there. And then what they do. And we'll be talking about what they do in a later presentation. Now, we talked about the hormones of the hypothalamus communicating with the anterior lobe of the pituitary gland, or what we can call the Adeno Hypothesis. But they're hormones, so that means they're released through the bloodstream. So even though we have this close proximity, we still are traveling through the bloodstream. And there is this special network of capillaries connecting the hypothalamus to the pituitary gland. And that portal system, this network of capillaries, is referred to as the hypophyseal portal system. So hypophyseal, P-H-Y, physio. And so the hypophyseal is referring to the pituitary gland. So the Adeno Hypothesis is the front of the pituitary gland. And then the neurohypothesis is another name for the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland. So these X's are meant to represent a capillary network here, and then one that's going through the pituitary gland. And you have, of course, blood vessels that are connecting these two capillary beds to each other. And you'll be studying that structure more as part of your lab work. All right, that's it for now.